What's up, Addicts? Today we're doing an addiction prescription for a show that came out 5 years ago and is not very relevant, but it's in our hearts, and that is Videogame Highschool.
It's becoming more relevant, I guess you could say, with the expansion of esports.
Yeah, so...
People still don't like esports, but this is the better version of esports. This is what you want esports to be like.
Yeah, if esports was like this...
Dude, I would be full-heartedly into esports.
I would be into esports.
Yeah. You want to tell a little bit about it?
So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a high school, and there's video games. No, so pretty much all the cliches of high school, you have like the bullies, the geeks, and then you have like different cliques. Those are all centered around video games.
It's great because they're like and there is like factions of those where there's like bullies and whatever, but they take like the persona of like different categories of games. So you have like FPS, you have like the racers, you have the fighters, and then you have like
game creators, mobile gamers.
Yeah, so they're all over the place, and it's really good how that plays out. I guess, do you want to go a little bit about like the characters? Do you want to just keep this?
We can keep it pretty simple. I mean, we can talk about the main guy. He is a noob like all of us, and he gets to kill the law in a multiple. So basically one of the best esports players in the high school scene. He meets him in a FPS lobby, kills him in the FPS lobby, and because of that, he gets famous and gets to go to this prestigious high school. I don't know. Like the Oxford of video games, I guess.
Yeah. Because it's set up a lot like a college.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot like a college, even though it's supposed to be a high school for sure. You have pretty much everyone in this world plays video games. It's just kind of the extent that they're good at it or not.
Yeah, because it's not so much set in the future, but it is set in like an alternate reality where like gaming is the biggest thing ever. Like, sport, like any other kind of sports, long gone. Movies, probably, like, it's still there, but it's nowhere near. So, it's so good because there's, like, an aspect, like, all the parents and stuff are, like, old gamers. Like, they're either, like, actively playing or they are, like, some retired, like, pro player that is, now teaching, which is a really cool aspect. The characters are something that I think they're a little bit stereotyped, but they're really likable. The actors that they get in the show are really charismatic, and I guess, just feel like a certain connection to them. I don't know if it's not so much like the relatability factor, or if it's just that they're really entertaining to watch connect with one another. But there's something about it that just has that spark that makes you like it. This is a show that I think is really, like, if you don't fit a certain demographic, you probably won't like it at all. Because I feel like it's really targeted towards people that are gamers, and specifically gamers that lived or that were prominent gaming.
In the 2000s.
Yeah, in like the 2000s to like 2010 era.
It's
got a lot of references.
It is kind of like... there's a couple shows on Crunchyroll or around that are very like he was talking for a very small demographic. But if you're in the demographic, it's really great. Like, I watched this show probably 3 years when it was coming out, and it's on Netflix now, for those of you who have Netflix. And I liked the show, but I wasn't sure if it was just like nostalgic is the reason I liked it, or if it was a good show. So I had Josh watch it, and he liked the show. Yeah. I mean, there's some elements that you're gonna have to deal with and get over.
Yeah, because there's like something like anything, because since it's set during this prominent time, there's a lot of things that maybe didn't age that well in terms of like stuff being like terminology. There's certain things that I don't know how to describe it. If you're in gaming culture, you know what I'm talking about, and like when you watch
it's like an old meme. It's not as cringy as like when those corporate companies try to like meme in commercials, but there is some elements of that.
Yeah, you can tell some of the memes are dated, but it's part of the charm of like bringing back that kind of atmosphere of the time. So I take it as that. There's the comedy is something that I guess it's I don't want to say it's slapstick, but at very times it varies, but there's definitely a lot of like gaming references to where like if you played certain games or if you know how games work, there's a lot of like small little jokes that you'll get. And I like that part of the aspect of the show. It's also a very interesting concept. I can't think of another show that has tackled something like this, at least in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can tell there's problems with graphics, obviously, because it does look a little bit dated, but you can tell, and some of the dialogue is cheesy. But
it's like meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be. You can tell that the people who made this actually care about video games, or at least wanted to make a good product. Mm-hmm. It's something that's not good. Like, if this was made in 2018, it's not like they talked. If this was made in 2018, they'd have some Fortnite elements, but it's not like I know you kids like Fortnite. It's not like the whatever that famous clip is like. Oh, hello, fellow kids. It's not really like that. You don't really get that corporate feel from the show. Which is appreciated. So that kind of brings it up another notch. And I think the relationships, while they may be cliched in this one, I think there is some depth there.
Yeah.
That, especially towards the second and third season, you get a more complicated relationship structure between some of the characters.
Yeah, and it's throughout all of the seasons, I will say there was no dip in quality. Like, all of them were on par. And I actually really liked the direction that they went throughout. The ending is something that I find a little bit sad, but maybe that's just because I got so into the show that I was like, oh, it's over now. Bad.
Never again.
But I think even though you might be like, if you get into the show and you might find it sad or whatever, I think it's a good ending that feels complete, even though it feels like they were cut short a little bit. They've ended off really well, and it stands by itself.
Yeah, some of the things that we talked about, a lot of things we liked in it, but one of them is there's two major. Well, there may be a couple other games that they kind of reference, but there's two major genres that they focus on. One is FPS, and one is racing/drifting.
Yeah.
So the execution of both of those I think that was the best possible with the technology and budget that they had. Mm-hmm. The drifting scenes are pretty great. And the FPS, once you get the feel for where they're going when people die and respawn, it's I like where they went with it.
Yeah, because they didn't try to go like a really graphic, or I should say like CGI heavy scenario. What they do is like, instead of showing like a simulation or like a computer generated thing of the game, what they do is they just film the actual people doing the scenario, and then they maybe have like effects for like when people die or when they get shot, or explode. And so I think they balance it really well, and it actually makes it really entertaining watching. If you like it's actually it's like a in-hint meme in itself, because it's like, oh, this is supposed to be like 2012. Wow, these graphics are amazing.
Yeah, I think there's one or two times in the show where they like show the screen of like the game. It's like, oh, it doesn't look like that at all. Yeah, it's got terrible graphics.
So,
but then you also have like some rhythm gaming stuff, which is funny. You have, instead of like I said magicians, but musicians being super popular. Like, the people that are popular are the people who are like really great at playing like Guitar Hero. The Guitar Hero pros are the musicians of this world, which is great. Post Malone would be proud.
It's actually, and just to kind of give you a hint of like, kind of what comedy they set up in terms of like what I mean by like time Pacific is like in the third season, they make this thing where like it's a big deal because they're like, oh, guess who we got to perform at the school? That's right, the best, the one, the only, Smash Mouth! And it's so good because it's like, Smash Mouth hasn't been like anything like that for years. And so, like, that's just what I mean. Like, if you lived during that time where you were like prominent in game, like, you get that. And I like that kind of thing. You're like,
Yeah, so it is a niche show. It's for a specific demographic. Looking at our comment section and the people who follow our videos, I'm sure there's 2 or 3 or 4 people that meet that demographic, as well as we that we do as well. So I think if you haven't checked it out, it's a good series to check out, and it is kind of the grandfather of YouTube fully released television shows. With Final Space being really, obviously it's a different kind of thing, but it's probably the first one that got popularity and then made it onto Netflix.
Because you also have people. What is it? What's the guy's name? I can't remember. The guy from Epic Mealtime.
Yeah,
he's actually in the show.
Harvey, I think something.
Yeah, and so
he's great in the show as well.
Yeah, and you got a lot of. I mean, there's just a lot of actors and like side characters, as well as the the supporting cast that they all fit really well together. and I think there's not one character that I was like disappointed at, you know. So I would say check it out. It's pretty highly rated in my opinion. Like if I was to give one, I guess since I've watched the whole show, I could give you kind of a loosely one. I think it's somewhere like I bounce back because again there is some stuff that you're kind of like maybe didn't age too well, but for the most part it's really entertaining. So I think for me it sits somewhere in between like a worth it and a gotta have it. It's just really entertaining to watch, and as somebody that didn't take it too seriously at the start, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Josh and with everything he said regarding the rating. In this series we talk about should you watch it, should you not. I think this is something that you should check out if you meet the demographic. If you don't, you can try 1 or 2 episodes, and if it's not for you, you can tell pretty quickly.
Yeah, you can.
But if you are in that niche, in that small portion of people who it was made for, it's a really good show. Check it out, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. And it's not too long of a show, so you can finish it a couple days or a week, and you'll graduate from Videogame High School.
It's very true. So I guess that'll conclude this segment of Addiction Prescription. As always, if you want to check out other stuff, links will be in the description, and we'll see you guys for the next video. Peace, addicts.
Later.